Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Sports on the Positive Tip. This is Kenny along with Kenny Squared. Here's our opening. Kenny, the Knicks scored 145 points against the Denver Nuggets the other night, Monday night, that was. And Jamal Murray said that Denver wasn't ready to play because they went to LA. They stayed an extra day there. He hinted that they had been out partying. What were your thoughts when you heard that?
Uh, he's probably not wrong,
Yeah.
but also like you're kind of minimizing what the Knicks did. They still
Yeah.
scored 145 on you.
I know. And I mean, they have played that game and the one against Phoenix, a few others. I mean, they had a stinker against Utah. I think that's going to happen. But boy, oh boy, is their offense. And this is without Mikal Bridges, doing great so far. Their offense looks great. OG had 44 points the other night against Denver, which was awesome. I made a mistake last week. I don't know what I was reading from. And I said that Ian Kinsler was second behind Ricky Henderson. And I don't remember the number I said, but it was a lot more than 48 leadoff home runs. Ian Kinsler has only had, not only, because that's a lot, he had 48 leadoff home runs in his career, and that was sixth all time. Ricky Henderson leads with 81. So thank you to one of our listeners and to on correcting me. And feedback is a gift. So correct us whenever you hear something because you're listening. All right, I got a question for you. Which one was worse? Worst manager decision? Was it Grady Little in 2003 leaving in Pedro Martinez, a totally gassed Pedro Martinez? Or was it Kevin Cash taking out Blake Snell after he'd only allowed two hits, struck out nine, five in the third inning, and only 73 pitches in game six of the 2020 World Series? Which one was the worst?
Um, See, part of me thinks the Yankees would still win game seven anyway. They might have they might have come back, but
Yeah.
still Blake Snell, like that definitely lost them the series.
Oh,
The second that he went out, all of the Dodgers were excited.
yes. He was dominating. I'm definitely going with that decision because I totally I shouldn't say totally, but I do understand Grady Little leaving in one of the best pitchers of all time because one of the best pitchers of all time looked him in the eye and said, "I'm okay." So I got that a little bit. I never understood Blake Snell, and Kevin Cash can explain it away all he wants. I'll still never understand that. That definitely to me was where, and you and I had said we did a podcast a day or two before, and we said, okay, now it's time for Blake Snell to step up and act like a Cy Young winner, and he did. He came. So I thought of that because of the contract Blake Snell just signed. We'll talk about that. We'll talk a little hot stove here. Hey, last quick thing. The season went by, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. I'll see which way you're going. Our prediction was right about Trevor Bauer. What do you what do you think of the next steps there? Because no teams, there were a lot of teams that could have used him this year. We could probably list maybe at least 10 off the top of our head. Nobody even contacted him. What do you think of the next steps, or is this just it?
I think there's a smidge of a chance once all of the legal stuff is like fully away.
Right?
Um, but I think his next step is he'll play in Mexico, Korea, wherever. And then I think I can see him in a couple years filing a collusion lawsuit.
Yeah, that's what I think too. I think too. I think a lawsuit is definitely coming. All right, Thanksgiving edition. You ready to get this going?
Let's go.
All right. This episode of Sports on the Positive Tip is brought to you by the Tavern Coffee House. Attention, coffee lovers! Are you craving the perfect cup of coffee to start your day? Well, look no further than the Tavern Coffee House. It's located at 12302 Buckeye Road in Cleveland, Ohio. You can also check them out and order your coffee at thetaverncoffee.com. Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny and
Kenny squared.
with the Sports on the Positive Tip podcast. This is our Thanksgiving edition. Kenny, I hope you're going to have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. And to anybody listening, hope you have a wonderful holiday as well. I love Thanksgiving. I know you do too.
Yeah, Thanksgiving is fun.
Yeah.
We're gearing up for the parade.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and we're getting donuts too, so it's kind of been our thing. So
Now, where is the parade? And are you just gonna? You talking about watching the?
oh yeah, watching the
Oh,
Macy's parade.
oh, okay, okay. Which you can say that you've actually been to in your lifetime, which is
Yeah.
a beautiful thing. So have I. And but let's start with the NFL. And I don't have any big storylines from the NFL. It was a very interesting week 11. We are really in the home stretch where I think the contenders and the pretenders, there's a real a big line now across some of them. I love what you did with your chart here, your weekly rankings. And before we jump in, I will ask you a question about the Dallas Cowboys, and then you can jump right in. But uh, do you think that they are going to go on a run? And did you see that Cavante Turpin kick return?
I think it's easy to say it's the best return that I've seen since at least since Devin Hester. So I
I've
mean, Devin Hester is like the goat at that, but
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was incredible.
What a move. Yeah, absolutely. It was the one move that just froze everybody, and then he was off to the races. Um, do you think Dallas will go on a run here?
I don't know. Okay, so here's they're 4-7.
Right.
Um, their upcoming schedule. Obviously, they play the Giants tomorrow. Then they play Cincinnati, which that's a weird game because we don't know how in Cincinnati's going to be at that time. The Panthers, who have been sneaky good the last few weeks, the Bucks, and then they play the Eagles and the Commanders.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, tough schedule. Yeah. I don't think
like
any of
it's
that's easy. Yeah.
yeah, but also like another big question. Well, I guess Dak is out for the year now, so
Yeah, definitely.
like you're kind of stuck with Cooper Rush.
Right.
But also, I'm gonna pull up the Commander schedule because technically, let's assume that the Cowboys win tomorrow. They're 2 games back, and really, they only need to make up one game to kind of pass them in the standings. Uh, the Commanders play the Titans, Saints, Eagles, Falcons.
Okay.
Once again, they're
Right.
kind of even.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't know. I'm gonna let you jump in, but that was the only one because you've got them lumped in with a few of the other teams that we know. I was also thinking the Browns. Obviously we'll get to what are you going to watch, but they've got Monday night game in Denver. But boy, Jameis Winston, how can you not root for him? I mean, this guy is he's so amazing. Let me just ask you this before you jump into the standings and one of the things about you being a fan, you can be very, very objective and you probably are a little tougher on your teams than I am at times. And you've been really, really tough on the Giants, and but deservedly so. I mean, you were right about Daniel Jones at the beginning of this year, and I was more taking up for him. But the Giants took, I don't remember the Giants taking as much heat as they took this past week with them getting rid of Daniel Jones, but then putting in DeVito, and they really didn't look like they were ready to play on Sunday. I mean, Baker was just toying with them, it looked like, and it's rare you hear me say I didn't think a team played that hard or they gave up in some spots, but it looked to me like the Giants kind of did in a few spots, and Baker and a few of the Tampa Bay teammates have been sort of pointing that out, with him. So I think that they're going to go all out on Thanksgiving Day because now they're going to be on national television. Do they want to get embarrassed on national television, where a lot of people will be watching after they have their turkey? And I mean, so do you expect any sort of bounce back here from the Giants?
Potentially. I don't know. I had texted you earlier in the week. It kind of seems like a lot of things aren't looking really good. Obviously, I don't think now you had said it before. I didn't think Daniel Jones should be the starting quarterback to
Yeah,
start the year.
yeah,
Um, and I'm glad that they finally took him out of the starting role, but I feel like they did it in such a disrespectful way.
yeah.
It reminds me, not as extreme, but it reminds me a little bit of when they benched Eli Manning, where
Oh,
like it
yeah,
just wasn't handled well. Like the dude is on a consecutive game streak, like one of the best in NFL history, and you took him out, and you still didn't even win the game. Um, so like I I don't mind that they benched him. I just don't like how it was handled.
mm,
Um, like Drew Lock is a serviceable NFL quarterback.
yeah,
Tommy DeVito is like as hardcore a backup as you can get.
yeah.
And they paid Drew Lock $5 million to be the backup. So really he should have been the one to start last week.
That was so
Um,
puzzling to me. Yeah,
but like also if you're tanking, I'm all for the tank. But like be honest about it.
right, right.
Which I guess maybe you're not allowed to be fully honest, but um
So will they show up in Dallas?
I don't think they will show up in Dallas.
Okay.
There's a chance that you might get a little bit of Drew Lock juice, but I think this team is kind of gone. Um, and I'm worried that it's going to get so bad that the Maras are going to have to make a move somewhere, whether that's Dayball, Shane, or both. I don't think that's the right move. I think we need to give them some time with like
I
a
agree.
not Daniel Jones quarterback,
Yeah,
but
I
I
agree.
wouldn't be surprised if it gets that ugly.
But Kenny, when was the last time you heard that many players speak out in the locker room afterwards? And that usually is the formula for a coach to get let go. Now, Mara is a great man of his word, and he said that he's rolling with both these guys next year. But do you think that could change if they get embarrassed on national? Like if they lose on Thursday, but they played really hard, keep it moving. Dallas is a better team, even though Dallas is not that great themselves. But if they lose like they did to the Bucks, where it just seemed like they were in a fog somewhere, and they start chirping afterwards, and I mean, do you think Mara has to still hold on to Daboll?
I think it all depends on how it rolls. I
Yeah,
think if there's like if it's very clear that the locker room like hates him, you got to get rid of him. Um, but also some of that might be noise, and I do think Brian Daboll is still a very good head coach.
I think so too.
Um,
Yeah, yeah,
it's just really hard when like there's the like they've had the culture of losing for a minute, and you draft Saquon Barkley, you draft Daniel Jones the next year, you let Saquon walk for very minimal, and then sign Daniel Jones to this big contract, and both are gone within a year.
yeah,
Like it's just hard.
yeah.
And I do think that sometimes people are very quick to change. Like I was watching a video earlier about the Bears and how every time they've drafted a quarterback, the quarterback had two coaches in 2 years. And it looks like the same thing is going to happen with Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Like that is where I'm a little nervous because let's say they draft Shadur Sanders, which would be great. Um, but they keep the current regime.
Right.
Then you're gonna have two systems in 2 years if things don't work out in year one. But
Right.
also maybe I don't know if they would draft him. It kind of seems like they're not like Sanders would be great. He also doesn't seem like the type of quarterback the Giants would draft.
Well, yeah, see, the NFL has changed a lot. See, I'm not even so sure that this is tough for me to say, but there just aren't many quarterbacks like Eli Manning anymore. And I'm saying that both as a compliment, but as a detriment in today's, football. I can't think of too many guys that aren't a little bit mobile like he was. He wasn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't mobile. And now, was Eli always accurate with his passes? I thought so. Was Eli a great leader? I thought he was a solid leader for a long time. but I'm not sure that I think the Giants have to move on from that type of quarterback. And I think they did in a sense with Daniel Jones, because again, his first 3, 4 years, to me, it was before he hurt his neck. He was very mobile. I mean, I remember him making 50, 60-yard runs, but you hadn't seen that
Yeah.
the last 2 years. I think that neck injury took its toll on him, but I think the Giants should go in a direction of getting the athletic type quarterback. Even the quarterbacks out there that might not be as athletic as a Shadir Sanders, they still can get out of the pocket and run in college. So I mean, Joe Burrow probably comes the closest, but Burrow can take off when he wants to. But Burrow has been, even though the Bengals aren't winning, he's been crazy successful. It'll be interesting to see the direction the Giants go in. It really will. But I just hope Dayball hasn't lost the locker room. And I don't think they hate him, but is he putting in enough time in preparation or getting these guys prepared to play? And really, at this point, when you're 2-9, right? It's all about pride and playing for your job for next year. You know, I mean, because you're not playing for the playoffs, but we see this in baseball all the time. How many teams play spoilers the last 2 weeks of the year? You see a team that, will have, you know, 50, 60 wins in late September, and they'll take 2 out of 3 from a team that's fighting for the pennant. So you don't see it as much in football. But um, anyway, let's get to your list. And you have a Thanksgiving theme, which I really love. So go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, I figured, I mean, it's our Thanksgiving episode. Why not? So let's start at the bottom. Thanksgiving. Um, these 9 teams should not try to win a game the rest of the year. Some of them will because they face each other and upsets happen. Um, but at this point, it's all about the draft order. That's why, like, if the Giants win, I'm gonna be kind of annoyed because, like, this is what happened last year,
Yeah.
and it's what happened with the Jets. The Jets could have Trevor. I know Trevor Lawrence isn't doing good this year, but the Jets could have drafted Trevor Lawrence, but they won and ended up with Zach Wilson,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Aaron Rodgers wouldn't be there.
Don't.
Um,
Yes.
so speaking of which, I say that the Jets are in there. At this point, you might sneak into the playoffs if you win out,
No.
but it's really hard to win out.
No.
You need that high draft pick, uh, if anything, so that you can trade out of it to get some more assets. Um, I mean, the draft is going to be interesting this year because you're going to have, um, like some of the really bad teams don't need a quarterback. Like Carolina's kind of teetering on not needing a quarterback. Dallas right now is 4-7, 14th in division or 14th in the conference. Like they just signed Dak Prescott. Jacksonville does not need a quarterback.
Yeah.
New England does not need a quarterback. So like so you might be in a good spot to where you could either draft at a high level a quarterback or trade down and get some more assets for whoever. Because the Jets don't need a lot. They just need the right people to lead the organization. And you don't need Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback next year.
Yeah. Well, we can talk
So
about that later too, but
yeah.
offensive line, I think, is what a team like New England, the Jets. I mean, Drake Maye, he's getting pummeled. So to
Yeah.
your point, yeah, trade down and shore up your offensive line.
Next is the Panthers. Bryce Young might be the answer, and hopefully they give him another year. But also if you can pair him with, I don't know, a good weapon, um, then I don't know, maybe you have something there. Like I mean, if they finish with, or if they can draft, is it Travis White, the two-way dude from Colorado?
Oof,
Like,
boy, he's good. Yeah.
like I don't know.
He's amazing.
There's an option.
Yeah.
Next on here, it also pains me to say the Browns. The Browns had a fun weekend. Um, Jameis Winston continues to be. I'd said it before in the text. I want Jameis Winston to be the next guest speaker at our church and preach a sermon because of just the way he speaks and everything.
He's
It's
amazing.
fun. It's great. Um, but also the Browns, like, I don't know what to do because I'm okay with Jameis being the quarterback next year, but he's going to need a little bit of help. Maybe just even a full year in the system might do it. Um, but it doesn't help them to like win at this point
Hmm.
because they're 3-8. Like
Yeah.
9-8 might make you in the playoffs, but not in that division.
Yeah.
Um, Cowboys are in the same spot. The big question is going to be, is Mike McCarthy coming back? Because obviously you're bringing back Dak. Probably their biggest offseason question too is going to be what you do with Micah Parsons. Do you sign him long term? Do you trade him? What do you do? So,
Yeah.
and to me, he's such a great, talented player,
Oh,
and especially when he's on, you got to keep him, but
yeah.
you also have to lock him up. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the Raiders are really looking for their quarterback. Like tank, get that top spot, get as close to that top spot as you can.
Yeah.
Um,
You think they bring back
Patriots, this
Antonio Pierce?
I would. I
Yeah.
don't know if they will or not
Yeah.
because the Raiders are quick to fire head coaches. I would bring Pierce at least another year.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Um, the Patriots, I mean, the Patriots are kind of in the. Is this uh is this the worst Patriots team we've seen to this century?
A long time. A long time. I mean, they weren't good last year either, but it, in
Yeah,
in a long time. I keep their coach as well, right? Just one. I mean, you had him in waiting all this time. You got to give him more than 1 year, right?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I don't think they've lost the locker room. He got them hyped for the Jets game, saying like, "You guys are playing soft," and they didn't play soft. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the Titans obviously are going for a quarterback too. I don't. I still don't know what they're trying to do. Long picture. Um, and then you got the Jags and the Giants. I don't remember the stat, but between Aaron Jones, King Henry, no, Josh Jacobs, uh, Derrick Henry, and Saquon Barkley, the teams that they left have a combined like 6 wins, and the teams they went to have a combined 24,
Yeah.
something along those lines. I don't have the numbers exact, but
MVP
like,
candidates, you know. They're
yeah.
one of those guys
Um,
who's been MVP. Wow.
so that's interesting. Next tier is thankful for seconds. That I tried to play with this a little bit because, like, on the Thanksgiving meal, obviously, you try to get everything, but you can't
Second.
fill everything up on the first plate. So then you go back for seconds and you get like your favorite thing and then the things that you missed or the things you didn't realize were on the table. Um, these teams are thankful for kind of a second wave of hope. Their first half didn't go well for a myriad of reasons, but they still have something to hold on to because of the second half. The Buccaneers were injured. Um, Shout out to Baker, who's has excellent numbers. He's been playing like a top 10 quarterback all year,
Yeah. Yeah.
with and without weapons too. Um, the Cardinals are just kind of there, but I think they're hoping for a better second half than the first half, so that way they can really secure the division. Um, Miami, obviously, Tua's injury was holding them back. Shout out to them though; they've won 4 straight.
They're hanging in there. We'll get to what to watch this weekend. There's a lot, but that's one of the huge games this weekend with Miami. Um,
Yeah, 3 straight. But
yeah, but still they've got 4 wins now, right? And
yeah,
I mean, you had to think they were done, and they're playing hard, and thank God Tua hasn't gotten hurt.
yeah. So they're thankful for the second half. The Rams too. The Rams are getting healthier. They still haven't like fully taken off, like I
Yeah,
think a lot of people expected.
no.
But that whole division has just stayed very, very tight.
Hmm.
The Bengals, the way that Joe Burrow has played has been excellent. Um, arguably the most unlucky quarterback in the NFL. Um, it's kind of like, those years where a pitcher has a really good year, but their record is like 10-9. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
like uh, like Jacob DeGrom when he won the Cy Young,
yeah, yeah,
like stuff like that's Joe Burrow this year.
yeah.
Um, the 49ers are definitely still in that Super Bowl hangover. That's going to be a very volatile situation, I think. I think there's going to be a lot of noise about Kyle Shanahan getting fired, and if he gets
Really?
fired, he'll be unemployed for like a day.
Yeah. I I mean that would be foolish if they did that, you know? Wow. Um, I think for them it's just been injury after injury, right? Kittle was out and Brock Purdy was out this past week. They've just got McCarry. They haven't gotten all their weapons together. Debo, I think, is out for the year. So I mean, they might just be, like you said, thankful for seconds, and we'll see you next year. Let's regroup next year. We'll see.
Yeah. So they're there. And also the Falcons. I don't know.
Yeah,
The Falcons are to me like one of the teams where they're like, I feel like you should be better than you are.
yeah, I agree. I agree.
Um, because like I keep looking and they're still like, oh, game over 500. They
Yeah,
should have like a 2 or 3 game lead, but they don't. But hopefully a second half will help them.
yeah,
The next is thankful for first. These teams are their first plate was really good. The first half they really started out well. And because of that, they're kind of sustaining their success. Green Bay is in there. Green Bay is third in the division, but they're 8-3. You put them in any division not named the NFC East, and like they're one of the best teams out there.
they really
Like
are.
by
Yeah,
far the best third place team.
yeah,
Um, I put Denver here. Denver has started out pretty well, and I think like the confidence that Bo Nix continues to develop continues to move them forward.
yeah.
The Colts, I don't really know what to do with the Colts. 5-7, Anthony Richardson, Joe Flacco, like that's kind of helped them a little bit. But they're thankful that their season didn't start out poorly because it would have gotten bad really, really quickly.
Oh, yeah,
I put the Saints in here because the Saints started out 2-0. It's been bad for a minute, and they finally snapped their losing streak. But
yeah,
uh, yeah, I
yeah.
don't
They've
know
been
what to do
playing
with them.
well. I'm surprised that Dennis Allen didn't work out there because he was on that team for a long time, under Sean Payton. So I'm surprised he didn't work out, and they've been. It might have been partly him because they played extremely well since he got fired. So we'll see. Saints have a lot of talent.
Yeah, and last but not least is the Bears. I
Yeah,
talked a little bit about them with their bad coaching, mismanagement stuff.
yeah.
Um, but I think the biggest issue is going to be okay. So Matt Eberflus gets fired. You know who's probably a great fit there?
Who's that?
Mike Vrabel.
Oh, yeah. That's a great point. Um, it's been a while since I've seen a team lose as many games in the last minute like the Bears have this year. I mean, they did it again this past week too. They're close. I mean, maybe it is a head coach away. You just hate to see them. How many head coaches have they gone through over the last 5, 6 years? I mean, it's just been insane. But maybe they hire a guy like Vrabel finally, and maybe he's there for the next 5, 10 years.
Yeah, and also like you have the quarterback that can do it.
Yeah,
You just hope that it
yeah.
works out.
You do.
So
They're gonna have a new stadium, right? Another year or two.
I think so.
Yeah, yeah. Another
Um,
coal city that chose, I think, to still have an outdoor stadium. Very interesting.
yeah.
Uh, Buffalo the same way, right? All right. You go ahead.
Well, you here with Buffalo, they're supposed to get a nice big old winter storm on Sunday night.
And they're playing the 49ers. Yeah. West Coast team, right?
Yeah, that should be a win.
I think so, yeah.
Next, thankful for January football. I think it's safe to say that these six teams will probably be playing football in January. I know week 18 is in January, but
Right.
like actually playing playoff football. The Steelers, I know they lost to the Browns, but they're still 8-3. They're leading the division. There's no reason to think that they'll completely fall apart.
Yeah.
Um, their question is, okay, so what do we do next? Do we sign Fields? Do we sign Wilson? Like, where are we going from here? The Ravens are they might have two MVP candidates, which is
Yeah.
really rare to say in the
Yeah.
NFL.
Yeah.
Like in baseball, usually like a good team, they'll have like two guys that finish in the top five. I mean, we saw top three this past year with the Yankees, but it's rare to see it in football. And to me, also, it doesn't mean anything until they actually win something. Lamar Jackson is, I think, like 1-4 in playoff games.
Totally agree.
But also, fun fact, I think I've mentioned this before. Lamar Jackson is 23-1 against NFC opponents in his career. The one, our good friend Daniel Jones.
It's the Giants. Okay. We're piling on the Giants, aren't we? Yeah, we got
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, more on both of our teams in a sec here, but the Texans, I don't really have much to say with the Texans. I think the Texans, if it wasn't like, if we're doing a ranking of like the most disappointing teams in the NFL, the Jets would obviously be up there, the Cowboys would be up there, the Jags would be up there. But kind of on that next level would probably be the Texans. Yes, they're still going to win the division. They're still probably going to win a playoff game or two. But I think this was supposed to be the year that they were going to take that leap into we're competing for a Super Bowl, and I don't know if they've gone there yet.
Yeah.
However, it's still early, and CJ Stroud is still good.
Yeah.
So
No doubt.
we'll see. Next, I have the Commanders here. I saw numbers on Jaden Daniels before and after his injury. He has not looked the same. Also, long season. There'll still be a fun story to talk about. It's not as fun as it was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But they'll still be in the playoffs. I think also the Chargers. The Chargers are probably the most overlooked team in the AFC. Everyone's talking about the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens. What about the Chargers? They have a winning head coach that's won on like multiple levels.
Yeah.
They have a great quarterback. They have an excellent defense. They're the team I wouldn't want to play in the first round.
No,
Just saying.
I totally agree. Chargers have been sneaky good this year, and I think they could sneak up on people in January. You're right.
And last on that tier, I have the Seahawks here because right now they're winning the division. They're currently in the lead. I don't
Yeah.
know if they'll stay there, but that's all I got.
Well, what a
Um,
huge win over Arizona, right? This past
oh
Sunday.
yeah,
Huge win.
yeah. Especially like if you're looking, that whole division can flip so quickly because everyone is separated by a game. But
Yeah.
having the tiebreakers, winning in your division is going to be so critical.
Yeah.
Whoever wins in the division will win it all essentially. Because they are the Seahawks are playing the Rams the last week, and I believe it's the Cardinals against the 49ers
Oh boy.
the
Wow.
last week of the season.
That's
So
gonna be fun. Yeah.
it'll be fun to see who gets flexed into what. But
Yep.
these are the teams that we really care about. Thankful for Super Bowl 59. These are teams that like I think we've gotten to the point in the season where they can kind of visualize themselves actually making the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think right now the Lions are the best team in the league.
Yes.
They tied for the best record. At one point 2 years ago, they were 1-6. Dan Campbell probably won't win Coach of the Year, but should win Coach of the Year
Oh yeah.
because he continues to establish that culture.
Yeah.
They are like in the NFC. There's one team that I would say could give them a run for their money, and I think that would be Philadelphia.
Okay.
Everybody
Got 'em up
else
there.
kind of seems like a step down. Even though I have Minnesota on the same tier, I'll get to them in a sec. But
Yeah.
I think everyone else kind of seems like a step down. I have the Bills. The Bills bye week last week, but they're bringing their home field advantage this weekend. And also, fun fact, they can clinch the division with a win this week, a
Yeah,
win and a Miami loss.
yeah,
So, which if I'm a Bills fan, I'm a little nervous about that because it's November
yeah,
and you're gonna go like 2 weeks, like you're gonna go like a month without playing meaningful football.
yeah,
Sometimes, and also like you're talking about, they're gonna be the 2 seed more than likely, or actually no, they have a chance at the 1 seed. But if they don't have the bye, they're going to be facing off against a team that's like fighting and scratching their way for the playoffs.
yeah,
Like, do you want to face Miami a third time? Probably not.
yeah. They'll
Um,
they'll keep playing hard. I think they've got an excellent coach as well. I'm glad they stabilized themselves because they used to go through coaches a lot as well. After Marv Levy. So I'm glad that they've stuck with McDermott. He's done really well there.
yeah, and I don't know. Josh Allen MVP will probably get
Maybe.
some buzz, especially if he has a big game in the snow.
Yeah.
People will
Yeah.
really be going for him.
Yeah.
The Chiefs though, the Chiefs are still 10-1, but boy was it scary.
Yeah. So
Um,
can I stop you for 1 second and just show you some love? You out of the blue, you said that last week. You said, I think this is a trap game. I was like, what? Yeah, I think Carolina is gonna might beat the Chiefs. And boy, they were that close. You can't see, but I have my little fingers just inches apart. They were very close. I mean, Patrick Mahomes had last run down the sidelines when they thought that he was going out of bounds. And I mean, he's just so good at deception. But Carolina gave the Chiefs all they wanted. The Chiefs were wiping their eyebrows when they, got out of there with a win. But you called that. I mean, that was amazing.
yeah, well, like it's just the trap game. It's to me it seemed there. Um, but also I think it shows with Kansas City, kind of the uh few years ago Warriors vibe, where there are games where they're definitely sleepwalking, but then they're like, "Holy crap, we're down by 20. Let's actually play basketball." And then before you know it, they're up by 15 and win the game.
That's a good analogy.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that the Chiefs have kind of gotten to that point, which is annoying for some, and I mean it is what it is. So,
Yeah.
um, right now, I would say the MVP leader, if I had a vote and voted today, it would probably be Saquon Barkley
Oh,
with
that's
the
probably hard
Philadelphia
for you to say.
Eagles.
Yeah, that's gotta hurt.
Oh yeah. Um, Saquon had more. This is another shot to the Giants. Saquon had more total yards than the Giants did as a team on Sunday. So I mean, also fantasy owners rejoice that you have Saquon Barkley. I have him on one of my teams,
Yeah.
42 points or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, Eagles have definitely kind of secured their division. They're going to continue the trend of not having repeat champions in the NFC East since 2004.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
fun.
Yeah.
And last but not least on that tier is the Vikings. Um, with them signing Daniel Jones, they have a chance to do something that will pain all New York sports fans. And that's if they win the Super Bowl, Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones will both get a Super Bowl ring before either the Jets or
Uh,
Giants do.
uh, uh. Oh, as Joe Beningo would say, the pain, the pain. It's painful. Although we wanted to run Sam Darnold out of town, just get out of here. Um, and Daniel Jones for that matter, Kenny, this is a perfect job again. I want to just go back to the Eagles for a second because I think they don't get enough credit. Remember, they were 2-2. They won seven in a row. And everybody was like, get Sirianni out of here, he stinks, he's terrible. And I'm like, very quietly, that team is also they're one of the best teams. You have them placed exactly right. You have Lions, Bills, Chiefs, Eagles, Vikings. I think that's dead on. Maybe the Steelers with a big win this week gets back up there or the Ravens, but I think these are the elite teams. And shout out to Sirianni. I don't think they beat Detroit in January or February, but they definitely are a Super Bowl contender. You just never know.
Yeah, and I mean, if things kind of go a different route, because right now, like the Lions, I think play one outdoor game,
Yeah,
but in the playoffs right now, they're easily lined up to be the 1 seed.
yeah,
Let's say a couple games go a little bit awry and the Vikings take that spot. or the Eagles take that spot, you could be talking about a whole different ball game.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Stellar job as always. We'll get this posted for you. Great, great job. Are you ready to go to what will you be watching? This is a long
Let's
weekend,
go.
a lot of football going on. Thanksgiving Day, which I gotta tell you, man, I've gotten so far away from watching Thanksgiving Day games. I'm gonna try to tune in and out, so I'll know what I'm talking about on the show here. But at what noontime, 12:30, you got Bears at Detroit.
Which that's interesting because
Yeah,
Caleb Williams and
yeah. Okay.
Jared Goff, but
Detroit is just so entertaining to watch. Their offense is just amazing. Jared Goff, we didn't mention, he's got to be an MVP contender as well, right?
yeah, I feel like people don't like him as an MVP candidate, but like he had a stretch of 5 games that like was historic, not even just good, but like
Yeah,
historic.
yeah, yeah. Well, you had that game where you gave 5 interceptions, so that kind of caught up. I mean, they wound up winning that game too. That was against Houston, I believe. Um, Giants at Dallas, we've already talked about that. That's the later game.
Uh, if you want tickets for that game, are going for $28.
What? $28 in Dallas, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so interesting. $28. Well, that's the other thing with the Giants, Ken. I'm glad you mentioned that. You I mean, see the Maras, John Mara, he's so in tune as an owner and he's very old school. They've owned that team forever. His dad, his grandfather. They had to see all those empty seats in the second half. I mean, it was a mass exodus, and it's not like the weather was horrible, but like, and so I mean, that's just so embarrassing. And for Cowboys, $28, that's amazing. I would go see that. You kidding me? $28. But the Thursday night, Thanksgiving night game, NBC is Miami at Green Bay. Now that one I'm going to try to tune into.
That's a big one. Miami's still trying to claw their way back in the playoff hunt. Like I know they are like in it,
Yeah,
but all Jordan Love on the big stage hasn't really gotten it done yet,
yeah,
like
yeah.
on a primetime game. So
Yeah, yeah, he's very good. Jordan Love. That should be a great game. Friday they have a afternoon game, 3 o'clock. Raiders at the Chiefs. Any interest?
no, that could be one of those Patrick Mahomes throwing for 350 yards, 4 touchdowns type of games.
Yeah.
Because like the Raiders were like they called him Kermit the Frog in the offseason.
What? What does that mean?
Because of his voice.
Mahomes, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, his voice has always just been great. It was the first time I heard his voice and I hadn't seen his face. I remember when he was in college. It's like, what is that voice? It was on radio. And then when I saw him, I was like, the voice doesn't match, the guy. All right, Sunday, 1 o'clock, Arizona at Minnesota.
That's a big one.
Yeah,
Especially more for Arizona, who's still trying to stay out of they're still trying to stay atop that division, but that's a fun one.
that is. Seattle at the Jets, which will the Jets show some life here? I don't know.
I mean, they've had the bye week. I feel like they could show something.
Yeah,
Like, I don't think they're going to lose out. I think they'll win a couple games. This could be a winnable game for them.
yeah. Okay. And 4 o'clock, Eagles at the Ravens. Huge game.
Battle of the Birds.
Yeah. 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 Huge game. And then Sunday night, you mentioned it earlier, the Niners at Buffalo, and what's probably going to be a pretty major snowstorm up there, which is not unusual for up there. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I like Buffalo though. I think the Niners should probably start to get ready for next year. So, but we'll see. And then Monday night, I put that there because it should be entertaining. The Browns at Denver. Can the Browns
Yeah,
have
I
good showing on Monday night?
well, they won't be intimidated by the cold. We saw that with Jameis. Which I thought I saw that he's never started a game below 40 until last week. But
Wow.
But I
Okay.
think that the Browns could give them a run.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I want to say the last 8 years, 7 years, since Myles Garrett entered the league, he's the only player to have 10 plus sacks every year.
Yeah.
Um, he is
Yeah. Wow.
tremendous.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. All right. Well, that wraps up NFL stuff, which took up most of our show, but it's that time of year, right? It's all about the NFL. I wanted to stay on the subject of football for a second, and I want to tee something up for next week. So we now are past that real busy season where we can get into a few topics again. And you and I have always been both of us more on college basketball than college football, but I think college football is going to be very interesting with their kind of 12 team tournament this year. And college basketball, this is what prompted two things prompted me to mention this, Kenny, and I'll just mention it really quickly. One was last night Kansas played Duke. This time early in the year, had some good college basketball matchups. And I tuned in a little bit because I wanted to see the big time guy from Duke, Cooper Flag. Um, and I'm forgetting the name of the guy from Kansas who's also a consensus All-American, but there was already so many transfers, and Duke doesn't do that much, but Kansas has. And there were already a few guys that, hey, this is their fifth year, you know? And I'm like, there's just something that didn't sit right with me on that. And then I shot a name at you. I'm not sure if you had heard this name yet of Bryce Underwood. And so Bryce Underwood, and this is where what I want us to talk about next week. Bryce Underwood is the top rated high school prospect in the nation, and he's a quarterback, and he committed to go to LSU. And because Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports is such a big Michigan fan, he said, "Hey, let me do something." Now, I'm not judging this at all because this is all within the rules now, which is what I really want to talk about. And he said maybe I could persuade Bryce Underwood to change his mind and go to Michigan instead. And he enlisted a very rich man named Larry Ellison, who I'm not as familiar with, and they came up with $15 million that they are going to pay Bryce Underwood to attend Michigan. So he backed out of LSU. Now this is only maybe it's 8 days now. It's either 9 or 8 days away from your commitment, your the announcements, right? And ESPN does a whole show on that now, right? Where the high school players, yeah, they move the helmets around and they so LSU had already was expecting him to go to LSU, but he's going now to Michigan, and so there's just something now. It's in order to get that money, it's a 4 year commitment, right? So figure that's about 3.5 million a year. So Kenny, I just want us to keep this in perspective. This is a 17-year-old high school kid. He's a high school senior. Think about when you were a high school senior. Um, and I think about when I was a high school senior. Can you imagine if someone knocked on your door and said, "We're going to offer you $15 million to play college football"? That's not even, scratching the surface of what you're going to get in the NFL. For me, it's starting to take a little bit of the joy out of I love watching college sports, but mostly I love watching college basketball. But I'm good. Well, you and I will be into the 12 team tournament. I'm sure we'll talk about it, when that time comes. But is this a good thing for college sports or not? And this is what I want to talk about next week. So do look up this story on Underwood. And now he's not the only one. Remember what we talked a little bit about that Vegas quarterback that kind of just walked out in the middle of the season because he was unhappy with something the coach did, and he immediately transferred to another school. I forgot which school, but and they used to couldn't do that. If you were unhappy, you had to sit out a year. You had to get red-shirted, right? And you had to sit out a year before you went to another school. I'm all for college athletes being paid. I'm not for college athletes. I'll give this away now, being paid $3.5 million, and that's not even including the NIL stuff, that Underwood would get paid for. So let's have a talk about this next week, okay?
Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts on that too.
I know you
Because
do.
I think one of the biggest things is it's not regulated. But
Yeah,
we can talk more about it then.
yeah, yeah. Portnoy, I'm not blaming him at all. He's well within the rules, and he has the money, and he loves Michigan. So I get it, but now what's going to stop somebody that has more money than him? Anyway, all right, we'll get more into this next week. Hot stove heated up a little bit. Blake Snell signs with the Dodgers. What were your thoughts?
Um,
5 years, by
well,
the way, and he's 32. They gave a pitcher five
yeah.
years at 32. But go ahead.
There's a few things. First, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I know the Yankees are chasing other teams in the American League, but like in reality, everyone's chasing the Dodgers, and they just got a two-time Cy Young Award winner. Currently on their roster, they have five MVPs and five Cy Young Awards, and that's not including Clayton Kershaw, who I don't know. I feel like they just bring back just because for the fun of it.
Oh yeah, he's
Uh,
coming back. Yeah.
so like, which like that was my first initial reaction, and then also seeing a lot of people talk about the like the Dodgers are spending so much money and how can they do this? Um, they're doing everything within the rules. And
Yeah.
I don't think that teams spending an exorbitant amount of money actually hurts the sport as much as people make it out to be.
Yeah.
It just feels worse because the Dodgers, like, they signed Shohei Ohtani to a $700 million contract. They signed Yamamoto to the highest pitching contract ever. And then they won the World Series.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen every year. Um, their rotation right now, you know who would have like their projected rotation, who has had the highest career high in innings pitched in a year?
On their rotation.
Yeah, so that would be between Snell, Ohtani, Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, which all of those guys would be aces on any other team.
Right.
You know which of those guys has the most innings pitched
Is
this
it
season?
Kershaw or
No,
Show?
not including Kershaw because he's
Oh,
technically a
okay.
free agent.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Uh,
Show him
nope, it's Blake Snell.
like Snell.
Um, and he
Yeah.
never pitches deep into games.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the Dodgers need pitching. Um,
Yeah. They addressed
so
the they I mean they were the champions, but you're right. They definitely need pitching because all their guys were hurt. And Snell typically doesn't get hurt. I mean, I saw that his last 17 games, he had a 1.45 ERA last year. So maybe with a full spring training and everything. And listen, he's not going to pitch deep. We love Dave Roberts. He's not going to pitch deep into games with Dave Roberts as his manager, though, either. So we're not going to expect to turn on a game and see him in the eighth inning um, on any games. But he's an excellent, excellent pitcher. I
yeah, and like so, and I don't dismiss the Dodgers for doing it. Like, go for it. I do think baseball needs to address two things. I think the deferred money thing is going to become a bigger issue. I'm sure all of the owners, once they saw that Shohei Ohtani signed for that contract, they were like, "What in the world? How? Like, we could have done that." Um, so baseball's got to figure that out around the next CBA.
yeah,
Because out of
yeah,
this, it's a 60, I think 68 million has been deferred, which lowers his luxury tax hit, which like that's huge
yeah,
for a team like the Dodgers who already are going to be spending a lot of money.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and like I think they said that they have like $900 million or something like that that's in deferred money, which
yeah,
like most of the ownership group now isn't going to be there in 20 years. So
yeah,
basically, like they're like, "Hey, this is your problem. You guys figure it out."
yeah,
I think that's something I don't know how baseball can address it, but they just got to address it.
yeah,
Um, and I'm sick of people saying that baseball needs a salary cap because that's not the issue. The Dodgers are also really good at really everything. Like they develop players well. They have excellent scouting. They they're well managed. Dave Roberts has been there now, what, 10 years or something like that. Um, I think the biggest thing that baseball needs, I think I said this last week, is a salary floor. Um, the biggest issue isn't the fact that all of these teams like spending a bunch of money. Um, the only owner with more net worth than Hal Steinbrenner is Steve Cohen. At least that spent more money. He's
Yeah.
not the second richest owner out there
Right.
though.
Right.
Paul Dolan is like the fourth. He's significantly richer than Hal Steinbrenner.
Yeah.
And the Guardians had like the 21st or something like that payroll.
Yeah.
And what also happens is all of the luxury tax pays for the other bad teams or the
Yeah.
other teams with low payrolls.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like these guys like the A's owner, the Rays, like they look at it more as just a transaction as opposed to this is a baseball team that I need to invest in.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you instituted that every team needs to spend at least $100 million in payroll a year, you would see a lot more random free agency signings.
Oh,
Like Juan Soto wouldn't be down to the Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox, and Blue Jays. You
right.
would have the Rays in there. You would have the Royals. Like you would have teams like that. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
also like you can't get mad at the Dodgers for spending money.
Yeah. No, because they invest it back. They make a lot of money and they're spending it to put a good product back on the field, right? God bless them. And you're right. You named a lot of things there. For every Mookie Betts they've developed, Mike Muncy and Gavin Lux. I mean, they've had players come through their farm system as well. Um, and so I don't fault the Dodgers. I'm just I think though you hit on a great point. The Royals and Guardians were in the playoffs last year, right? Could they have gotten to that next level? The Orioles, I'll throw them in as well. It's not like the Orioles are signing, big time free agents. They probably won't keep Corbin Burns, but I think that a team like the Rays have been managed so well for so long. Now they had an off year last year, but they've been to a couple of World Series and with low payrolls. And so it's not just that, as you pointed out. I think you have to be a well-run organization. See, to me, the flip side of that is the Oakland owner, well, now Sacramento owner, right? Um, who has money and doesn't spend it, right? He's made a lot of money in his other business. He's a wealthy owner, and he's a younger guy too, which is kind of surprising. He doesn't spend, and hopefully at one point, I mean, you should spend to not only make trades and maybe inherit a contract, but I mean, you think about the Royals signing Seth Lugo last year. And so you would call him probably a middle tier, but he was probably, I can make this argument that he was one of the top five pitchers in the American League last year. And so the Royals did their homework and said, we can invest money in this guy. It's not going to cost us a ton and bring him in. And there's players like that. It's funny, I jotted down Pete Alonso. Now, there might be some teams that can't afford him. I hope that the Mets bring him back because he does. See, he means more to the Mets than he would mean to just, let's say, the Houston Astros, who could probably use him, right? Because the Astros are going to be a little bit skeptical and say, he's a 30-plus-year-old slugger. How far am I going to go with him and how much am I going to give him money? And we do want to bring back Alex Bregman. So we want to have money for him as well. Whereas at the Mets, okay, we can go a little bit over the market because he means a lot to New York. He's a homegrown guy. The fans love him. But listen, Pete Alonso can go through spurts, and I love him, but he can go through spurts where he's all or nothing, where he hits a couple of home runs or he strikes out a lot. And so, and as sluggers get older, they tend to slow down a little bit more. So I think there's a ground in between is what I think you're saying. But I'm with you on the Dodgers. I don't fault them at all. I think, God bless them, you know. Um, do you think we'll see?
That
Go
was
ahead.
Seth Luco, by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry. Seth Luco, second in Cy Young voting this
Yeah.
year. So
He had a great year. I mean, Lugo always was a very good pitcher. The Mets just didn't want him to start again, because they were afraid that his elbow would burn out. And he had a good year the year before, right, with the Padres. And so it wasn't a surprise that he went to Kansas City and did. I mean, a little bit of a surprise he did as well as he did. With Snell going, and then we could move on to the last couple of things here. do you think now Corbin Burns and Max Fried, obviously they're the two next tier. I mean, you could make a case that Corbin Burns is even a little bit better than Snell, but um, do you think they'll get signed pretty quickly here now?
Um, I don't know about quickly. I feel like they're more like winter meetings people.
Yeah.
I do think this year's offseason is going to move quicker. Um, I believe that at this point, everything is waiting on bated breath to see where Soto's going.
Soto, yeah. Yeah.
Um, because like I think it depends on what he signs with and who he signs with as far as where Corbin Burns is going to end up.
Yeah.
Because like if Juan Soto doesn't end up on the Mets, I think Corbin Burns is going to be the guy that they go after hard. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if I'm Corbin Burns, 30 years old, so a little bit younger than Blake Snell, I start at 182 million and keep going up. Same with Max Free now.
That's fair. Yeah. That's fair. I don't know, Freed, would you pay that much for him? He's younger too, right? Than Snell?
I believe so.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, Max Fried is 30 as well.
Burns is more of a proven commodity to me. You know what I mean? He's been good for a while now, and I thought this past year was a big test, right? You go to a different team, and you help carry that team into the playoffs because he had a great year last year. So it'll be interesting. I want to see these guys get signed, and I'm hoping the Mets do get, Soto. But I'm equally as hopeful that we'll bring back Pete Alonso. I really think he means a lot to the team. I think the Mets will fill in the holes in the rotation. I do think they'll probably go all out to bring Sean Manaea back. I think they'll let Severino and Quintana go. But I think Manaea was definitely the better of the three of them, um, in the second half especially. So we'll see. Your Yankees have some work to do as well. So let's see how these chips start to fall. Should be fun.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
All right, you asked the question, what are we thankful for? And so I will say I'm just thankful for all my teams that I root for. So I just did a sermon about gratitude even in the worst of times, right? So I can't now say I'm not grateful for the Jets because they've stunk for the last 14 years. Oh, they haven't been in the playoffs for the last 14 years, and I've never seen them in a Super Bowl. So I'm grateful for them. My Knicks, they haven't won a championship since I was a little guy. At least I remember that. But I'm grateful for them, and I like their turnaround this year. I think they're going to be 55-year team. I'm standing on that, and at least to the conference finals, maybe even the finals this year. And wow, I was so grateful for the thrills that both the Knicks and the Mets gave me this past year. Man, oh man, I never expected. In June 1st, I was really despondent about the Mets. Thought it was going to be a long year. And not only did they turn it around, but the way they played was so joyful and it was fun. It was nail biting at times, going down to that Atlanta series in the last week of the year, last few games. And then you have Lindor hitting that big home run. You have Pete hitting the home run against Milwaukee, against the Airbender closer, against Devin Williams. And they gave the Dodgers all they wanted. And then them beating the Phillies, Mark Vientos with all the big hits in that series. So I couldn't have asked for more except a championship, but that's okay. The Mets will get there. I'm thankful for all the teams I root for. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I won't elaborate that much on the Knicks. I'm thankful for that Karl Anthony Towns trade.
Yeah.
Especially, I saw some not so great highlights of Julius Randle
Oh,
yesterday.
yeah. Is that he was
But
mad
I
at
think,
Gobert because Gobert wouldn't? Did you see that? Is that the one you're talking about?
no,
Gobert wouldn't clear out for him. They were
uh,
yeah, there was a little tension there. But go ahead.
oh, I didn't see that, but I'm not that surprised. So I'm very grateful for that trade. Thankful for that trade. Um, Also just thankful for what was a great Yankee season.
Yeah.
Aside from the World Series, uh, This is like the most fun playoff run that I've seen in a minute. Um, and like the Juan Soto home run uh, to clinch the World Series, or to clinch the pennant, I should say.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
definitely one of those iconic moments.
Oh,
The back-to-back Judge and Stanton home runs off of Clase. I know they lost the game, but it's still like you did that off of a closer that gave up 6 runs all year.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I am thankful, and I hope that they can, well, A, re-sign Soto, but if they don't,
Yeah.
um, get back to the World Series again.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
get the Dodgers to stop chirping their mouths
Oh,
and play
that's
some
so
actual baseball.
that's so unbelievable. That I shouldn't say it's unbelievable this day and time. That's what guys do, but they should keep quiet, because they do play the Yankees in a regular season. So, even
Yeah.
if they don't meet in the World Series, they meet in the regular season. So it's not never good. And those games will be on national television. Yankees, Dodgers, guarantee you all three will probably be somehow figure out on national television, Apple TV on Friday night, and then the game of the week on Saturday and Sunday Night Baseball. I guarantee you. Um, hey, so I'm going to leave my inspiration there because I have an inspiration of a guy named Davin Van, who is a very good star defensive lineman with North Carolina State. But I want to give this a few extra minutes, so I'm going to hold on to. I'm going to leave my inspiration at Mets, Jets, and the Knicks for this year. What say you? Do you have any inspiration?
I wanted to just give a quick update.
Yeah.
Because we talked about last week comeback player of the year,
Yes.
Chris Sale and Michael Kopech, I believe. But I want to focus on Chris Sale because, of course, day after we record and everything, I see that Chris Sale was actually planning, but when he got traded, that 2024 would be his last season as
Yeah.
a pitcher.
Yeah.
Last 4 years hadn't gone well, a lot of injuries, a lot of struggles, and then he wins the Cy Young. So obviously he's not retiring. But I do think it's just interesting how sometimes you just need that fresh start. And
Yeah.
once you get that fresh start, everything looks up. So
Yeah.
shout out to him. Hopefully he has another good year next year.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris Sale is he's an amazing pitcher who's been through a lot over the last 4 or 5 years. You remember with the White Sox, he was very good. And that was a big trade that the Red Sox landed him. And then, or maybe they signed him as a free agent. I don't remember, but
No,
um,
they traded Moncada for him.
okay, okay. And then just, I mean, he was just great with the Braves. I know there were 2 games where the Mets could not touch him. I mean, he just was, and he makes it look so easy because sort of like Sean Manaea kind of took on his role where he kind of goes down, bends down when he throws a little bit sidearm, Chris Sale. And Manaea found a lot of success doing that in the second half. All right. Well, with that, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And we will be back next week. And I'm going to expand on this David Van, and we're going to talk a little, and maybe we could talk a few solutions to what I think is going to be headed to a really bad road with the NCAA and the type of money that's being thrown around now. So we'll get into that and all the games, whatever. But in the time being, Kenny, take us home.
All right, this is Kenny Squared N.
Kenny.
With Sports on the Positive Tip. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you guys next week.